Hey yo, alright, so, what's good gamers? Today I'm doing a little bit of a TABG video on the blessings. So, I'm doing this video in response to a viewer request to go over, like, blessings and, like, just kind of give my 2 cents on every blessing and, like, what's good, what's bad, where it's, like, usable, not usable, so on and so forth. So, we're gonna start at this line and go all the way down, and we're gonna start with, or we'll go over the epic tier only, just because the epic has, well, all of them. Plus, it's got some extras that are only exist in the epic category. So we're just gonna go over all of this crap, and we're gonna start from here. Excuse me. So, we're gonna start off with the epic battle cry. So in general, when it comes to active blessings, where you have to like use your catchphrase to trigger it and that sort of thing, so most of them I would say are not as great as passive ones, just because there's a cooldown associated and that kind of thing. However, in the case of battle cry, regardless of the rarity, obviously the higher the rarity, the better. But battle cry in general, it's okay a blessing. It's one of those blessings where it's like if you've got literally nothing else, then it's good to have, obviously. But if you've got other options, then definitely consider swapping it out. It depends though, like, you could be like if you're going for a specific kind of a build where like you're stacking battle cry with like a mastery and a spray, and you're like trying to have like some insane build set up where you're getting like no recoil and your rate of fire is through the roof, and like you know what I mean, like if you're going for some sort of a gimmick, you could make that work for sure. But otherwise, like in general, like if you're just kind of like, not going for a specific gimmick in general, I don't think it's all too great. But it's not like bad, objectively speaking. But anyway, we're gonna move on. So, with Bloodlust. So, in terms of scaling HP, this is one of those situations where it's kind of how do I say, like a double-edged sword. So it's like the more HP you have, obviously, the better it is because you're tanky, right? But the more HP you have, the larger your player model actually becomes. Like your guy gets like scaled larger and larger. Of course, I believe there is a limit, but um, in either case, like the point being is like the larger you get, it's like yeah, you're tankier, which is cool, but if you're like super big, right? Like take for instance these two trees. Like if you're this little tree, right, and that's your hitbox, that's cool, right? But then if you get a whole lot bigger, and then like you're like this bigger tree over here, like then your hitbox becomes like that, and it's like, well, which tree is easier to hit, right? And so it's like, yeah, you're tanky, it's cool, but however, if you like pair scaling HP or HP in general with uh one of the, I'll find it here, but it's Epic Small. It's Epic Small, the one that makes your guy really small. Oh wait, did I miss it? I must have like missed it, or either they don't show it, but they must show it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. So, right. So the reduction in size, if you get that and pair it with either scaling HP or just static HP, like then you can combo that out, and it becomes honestly kind of viable because you're like a little guy, but you're like so fucking tanky, and so like that kind of a combo is pretty fucking pog. Okay, anyway, moving on. Epic, or sorry, cardio. Okay, so cardio in general is like a pretty solid blessing. But if you have just cardio and like no other speed blessings, and obviously there's better healing you could have, but cardio is definitely not like a bad kind of healing in terms of like, I think I would say like maybe regen's probably like generally worse, but cardio is definitely pretty decent, and pretty kind of like self-explanatory as to like when it would be good. Right, obviously if you got like speed, the faster you go, the better it is. But if you don't, then if you can swap that out for a different kind of healing, then do that for sure. Okay, so next we have Epic Charge. So this is one of those same kind of things what I was saying before with active blessings, where it's like it's not bad, right? Objectively speaking, it's good. Obviously, it's good. But if you like are in a situation where you have to either have epic charge or some sort of passive speed, or sorry, like static speed, like like a common speed or a rare speed or something like that, right? I would definitely opt for the static speed as opposed to like the active epic charge or whatever variant of charge. Not that it's bad, but if you're in a situation where you have to choose, I definitely would say going for the static speed is better. However, if you already have speed, let's say, and you're going for another gimmick where you're like stacking all the speeds and you have like a static speed and a scaling speed, and then you have in your third slot like a charge, you know what I mean? Then you could definitely do that and have a lot of fun with that, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like it's not bad, but if you're in a situation where you have to choose, maybe consider your other options. Okay, next, Epic Dash. So let's see here. So Dash in general is not bad. So like Dash is one of those things where it's like if you have an Epic Dash or better, then it on its own is pretty decent. The mobility is really nice. Mobility is a big deal in this game, so like the faster you can move, the better. But if it's like a common dash, just one isn't super significant. But if you like say you're in the start of a game, you just like spawn in or whatever, and all you find is like three common dashes. Well, if you have all three and you're stacking that, all three of them, that can be pretty interesting. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely one of those things where it's like if you've got a common or even a rare and it's just like by itself, then it's not too good. But it's got its uses. Mobility is definitely very good in general. So like it's not a bad thing, of course, but depends on like what you're kind of doing, what your like intentions are in the game. Okay, so next we have epic healing words. So even you can see it even at the epic variant, the cooldown's 20 seconds. So like again, it's not a bad blessing, but as far as healing blessings go, it's definitely, I'd argue, like out of all the healing types like blessings that you like, from the passive healing to the from cardio where you like heal on movement, or from all the different types of healing and so on and so forth, I feel like this active blessing healing is probably the worst. Probably the worst. But definitely it's one of those things where if you don't have anything else, definitely it's good. Objectively speaking, it's not bad. It's not bad if you don't have anything else. But if you have options, definitely consider your options for sure. All right, so next we have epic health. So our health in general, really. It's one of those things where it's like I was saying, it's a double-edged sword. So it's like it's good, yeah, because you're tanky, but it does make you bigger, so you are easier to hit. So like I said, if you're running some gimmick where you're stacking health just to be a super huge man and like super tanky for the fun of it, you could definitely do that for sure. But in general, like viability, if you're like in a really like, I don't know, if you're in a lobby where you're feeling like going really competitive and all that crap, well, it's like, yeah, maybe you don't want health unless, like I said before, if you're stacking it with the epic small or right, something like that. So like if you're doing that, then because you're tiny, and it doesn't really matter if you got more like the bigness that it makes you is like, I feel like reduced when you have like the small active. I don't know like specifically how it works like in terms of the coding, but I feel like normally like health would increase you like a certain percentage, but I feel like the percentage is reduced when you have like this small, like obviously it's like lesser a percentage, but I feel like in proportion to what it should be, I feel like it's also like reduced relatively as well. But I don't, like I said, I don't know like the specific science or the code behind it, so it's like I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the case. Okay, so next we have ice. So ice is one of those things where it's like kind of with all the on hit effects, it kind of depends on what you're going for. So ice in general is pretty good, but it's better for generally speaking like a high rate of fire type weapons, so like the SMGs, the machine pistols, that sort of thing. Just because like yeah, if you're using a sniper for instance, like okay, yeah, cool, if you land one shot, it's like yeah, it'll slow them for a bit, but The real main benefit of something like ice is if you have like a high rate of fire weapon where you can like consistently land a bunch of bullets and like keep them slowed for a good duration, and then follow them up, like to line them up with more bullets from like that automatic weapon, so on and so forth. So I feel like, yeah, ice definitely benefits higher rate of fire weapons more so than it does lower rate of fire weapons. That's for sure. But definitely not a bad blessing. Definitely. But in general, it's like it depends. Like if you've got options, definitely you might want to consider your other options. But ice in general is not too bad. Okay. Let's see. So epic jump. In general, jumps doesn't matter the rarity. I feel like jumps to me personally are probably just like the best blessing. I feel like mobility, I feel like is the number one most key thing that like can't be understated in this game. Like mobility is huge. The more either the faster you can move or the more like dimensions of movement you have, the way better off you are in a game. And so jumps, I would argue, is better than horizontal mobility upgrades because like if you move faster, yeah, you can dodge better. But if you can jump more, you can literally like access things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to access. So like let's see, for instance, this wall, right? Like if I move really fast, it doesn't matter how fast I move, I'm still never gonna be able to jump that high, right? So like in a situation where, let's say I was, had speed, but I was running away from a squad of people and they had someone with a lot of speed too. Well, if let's say this was a solid wall and there was no way for me to get around it, and I like ran into this situation where I was backed up, well, it didn't really matter too much how fast I was going because I hit a wall, right? But if I had jumps, you can just jump over the wall. And so it opens up like a whole new dimension of like mobility and like opportunity for you to like interact with your environment. So that's why I would say vertical mobility is definitely generally just better than horizontal mobility, but both mobilities are really like good. Mobility in general is something that is really just really good in this game, like the best attribute to like enhance if you have like the option to enhance it through blessings. Okay, next. All right, so live these. So this is one of those blessings where it's like, how do I say? It's kind of like some people really hate it, and then there's like a select few that like really like it, but it depends. Like it definitely takes a little bit of like I think this is one of those blessings that's got like the most learning curve to it. Like to really learn how to like utilize the blessing and like take advantage of it. And then even once you do, I feel like in general, this type of a blessing, it really enhances one shot weapons like the best. Like crossbows or snipers that shoot once and then like a reload or something like that. Those kinds of weapons, like really low ammo capacity weapons, beads really enhances those kinds of weapons the most. Because like yeah, it gives you fire damage when shooting on B, right? So like if plus 35%, that's a big deal. Well, it's a big deal in general, but if you have a sniper rifle and you're sniping on B, like snipers already do crazy damage, but plus 35%. And if you land a headshot, well, you're killing them no matter what kind of like shield or, well, maybe not literally no matter what kind of shield or health blessings they have, but the point being is you do a lot of damage, right? So yeah, it's definitely one of those blessings where it's like it's good, right? But you kind of have to learn to really make like you have to learn to be good with it. Like it's gonna take a little bit of learning, a little bit of practice, but not a bad blessing, not a terrible blessing. Although some people might try to tell you that it's garbage, but and then we have epic poison or just poison in general. So poison in general is really good. Beyond just the obvious, benefit of it doing damage over time. So obviously damage over time is great because they're taking more damage, right? But the real main benefit of the poison blessing is that when you tag someone and they have the poison proc triggering, the entire time that it's procking damage and triggering, it's showing you their location, right? So like if you're chasing someone in terrain where there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of corners to like hide behind and stuff, right? If you tag them, you're gonna see the little hit marker like through the walls. So it acts like a almost like a wall hacker in that sense, or like an extra like aid in combat. So like that's the real main benefit of poison, because it gives you like location details on your enemy if you hit them. Like I said, there's a lot of places in this like map where like basically any like main titled place, there's a lot of like cover to hide in and around, in between. There's a lot of places to like rat around, and so like poison becomes really good in those types of situations, for the simple like fact that when you tag someone, it'll like show you where they are, like through the walls and all that stuff. So that's why poison's pretty freaking great, obviously beyond just the damage that it's doing. So let's see what's next. Recycling. So recycling's also it's one of those things where in general it's like a value is dependent on like the situation. So it's like, if for instance you're rocking let's say like your set is you're rocking two set of akimbo weapons. Let's say you're rocking two like akimbo flintlocks and like two akimbo, I don't know, let's say like pistols, like the M1911s, right? If you're rocking a build like that, then recycling becomes a really good, because you're constantly reloading two weapons, right? And so the healing, you'd be getting it consistently, and with like a greater rarity recycling, you're getting a decent amount of heal per reload. And so if you're getting 25 HP, let's say with epic recycling, and you're using flintlocks, and so every time you shoot and reload, that's a full reload. That's 25 HP a heal per weapon, and you're doing that constantly. So you're constantly getting like that 50 HP or whatever rarity you're using. You're constantly getting that full reload heal. And so like if you're rocking an akimbo build, and you find a recycling, I would definitely say it's really really good. Really, yeah, really good in that case. But if you're not rocking a build like that, then it's a different scenario. So let's go on to regen. So regen's good, right? It's like passive healing, increases the item speed for healing items. So obviously that's good. That's pretty freaking good. You can't really debate that. Um, Alrighty, so yeah, moving on to the next one. So we have Epic Relax next. So with Epic Relax, or just any relax in general, pretty good. Obviously you heal yourself, and there's a little bit of an aura radius, so like you can heal teammates. So in general, obviously, pretty good as far as healing blessings go. Can't really argue with its usefulness. However, the only like real main drawback to relax as far as healing blessings go is this actually does reveal your location, right? So like the moment like you get it and you go prone, you have this little bubble around you. And so let's say you're in a place like containers, for instance. Containers has a lot of like because of its environment with all the containers and stuff. Like there's a lot of places for you if you're in a gunfight or whatever, and you're trying to be sneaky with your with your maneuvers and how you move. If you wanted to like go prone and sneak through like under a crate or something, every time you're gonna try to go prone to try to do something like that, it's kind of just gonna do that bubble. And so that could kind of really mess with like any sort of sneak plays, or if you're in a gunfight and you get low and you're trying to run away and sneakily heal, it's gonna kind of give out your location. So it's like it's good, but it's got that sort of a little bit of a drawback because of how it kind of gives you away. But there's I guess there's workarounds, so to speak. The radius isn't so huge, so if you position yourself right in certain spots, then it doesn't really matter. But it does sort of give you away a little bit. All right, anyway, next. So we have shield next. So shield in general is pretty good. I would say it's arguably, to me at least, better than health blessings, because it gives you like, obviously it's on a cooldown, so it's not as consistent as the health blessings. However, it gives you this little bit of a shield, so it's like one shot protection, and it does not, however, make you larger. So like you maintain your size, however you still get this little bit of a buffer, which if you're if you're in a gunfight with someone who has like an automatic weapon and they're spraying you down, then the duration of the shield is only like I think 1 or 2 seconds, so it's not really gonna help you out for too long. But however, it's really good if you're in a situation like if you're traveling across like an open field, like like if you're going from containers to area and you have to like walk it or drive it or something like that. There's a lot of open field, and if there's snipers camping out here and they're like trying to shoot at you if you're driving or whatever, and if one of them gets a decently lucky shot and lands like a body shot or something like that, that's where the shield really comes in, because like I said, it does make you bigger, so you're not an easier target. However, you do have that bit of a buffer, so that if you do get sniped at and someone lands a shot on you, you're not instantly dead because you have that 100 extra. Well, in this case, 100 extra, an extra 150 HP, and obviously the different rarities affect how much health you get. But I think even at the minimum, it's like at least 100 or whatever it is. So it's pretty decent, not bad, not bad. All right, so small. This is good. However, I would say the main drawback to being small, is essentially that your mobility is reduced, limited by your size, right? So, um, with this game, like your size literally affects your mobility. So like the smaller you are, the shorter your legs, the slower you go, the smaller your jumps are. So small is good because you can like, hide in small places, you're like a hard target to hit, and it's good for survivability. However, the drawback is that your mobility is kind of limited. So if you are rocking a small blessing in a game, it's good to pair with other mobility blessings like a speed or a jumps blessing, because obviously this blessing inherently limits your mobility just based off how much smaller you get. So it's definitely good to pair up with something like speed, which is the next blessing. So speed, like I said, mobility is like the biggest thing in this game. Like it's numero uno, like in terms of importance. When it comes to blessings, like upping the mobility, whether it's vertical or horizontal, is the first and foremost most important thing, um, for a whole load of different reasons, just but mainly surviving. But even just for the sake of like traversing terrain, if you don't have vehicles, like the more speed you have, obviously, like if you have to go from chaos to industry, the faster you get there, the better it is for you. For the sake of being there first to loot it, or getting into favorable positions before other players if you're trying to like stay there for a bit, or that sort of a thing. So speed, a very good thing, and there's no like inherent drawbacks or like negatives to speed at all whatsoever. It's just only good. It's only a good thing. So next we have spray. So with spray, I would say, yeah, it's definitely better than the battle cry blessing, because this is passive, so it's like static stats increase to your regular stats, so that's why it's pretty freaking good in general. It's definitely one of those things where uh so this kind of a blessing favors high rate of fire weapons, because it can boost them to crazy high rates, or even just regular rate of fire weapons. It'll obviously boost the rate, mag size, reload speed is great, right? However, if you get enough of them, if you stack like a few, you can get certain weapons that normally have one shot in the chamber. You can get some of those weapons to have two or even three shots in the chamber if you stack a lot of high rarity sprays. So if you get enough of them and you stack them, you can like get a one shot weapon that normally has like one shot in the chamber. You can get to have two, and that's kind of a big deal because it's kind of a game changer. It changes how you like engage in fights, and can change a lot of fights to like in a more favorable outcome for you. So it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of just a good blessing in general. Not really too many I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a drawback right now, but it's like I don't know, the only like negative I guess is that it takes up a blessing slot. But other than that, yeah, no, it's a pretty good blessing, pretty good blessing. So next we have Storm Call. Okay, so Storm Call in general is pretty good, because you use it, and then it's whoops. I try to use it, but it didn't go off anyway. But yeah, it does it doesn't actually say the meters for its radius, but it's a good distance, a good distance. But yeah, it does AoE damage. If you're rocking a melees, it's really good to pair up with that, because then why is you're trying to like melee somebody or even just punch them out, you trigger the electrical thing, and then that thing just lights them up. So that's obviously really great. The only drawback to this is kind of same thing with relax, is like if you're using it, it does, it kind of gives away your position, but most of the time that you're using it, you're engaging in a fight, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't know, I guess it could be a factor, something to consider, something to think about. Also, the another drawback, kind of a big one for Stormcall, is that if you have any sort of a scaling blessing, so if you have like Hunt, for instance, or Bloodlust, uh, kills that you get with the Stormcall don't actually like count towards the like the count for the scaling skill. So like even if you get the kill, like so if you get the kill with Stormcall, I don't even know if it actually goes towards your like kills counter. I think that's like, I don't think it does, and I think that's the kind of the main problem with this. Like it won't, like let's say you're rocking melees and you have like a hunt, right? And you want to stack up the kills to make it better, to make your melee game better, right? But if you have this and you're trying to take advantage of this, well, either you're gonna have to time your melee hits perfectly, or just not use it at all, because it's, if any kills you get with the Stormcall, it's not going to go towards any scaling blessing, which is kind of the main drawback for Stormcall. But that's only if you have like scaling blessings. Otherwise, it's, if you have static blessings, it's totally perfectly fine. All right, so in terms of Storm is pretty good. Uh, Trying to think of a drawback. Yeah, there's no real like main drawback to this blessing in general. It's like just generally pretty good. If you have nothing else, it's just obvious, it just gives you benefit. If you do have options, definitely, well, here's the thing, right? So like if you have Storm, it's definitely better for high rate of fire weapons, because of the higher the rate of fire, the more chance you have to proc the trigger, and then obviously that's just better in that case. But if you're rocking like a crossbow or something that doesn't like shoot very fast, then Storm's not necessarily that great. But if you are rocking a build where, let's say you're rocking like a spray blessing and you put like a Storm and maybe like a weapon mastery, then that becomes really good. If you have, say, let's say for instance like a Glockinator or something else that's a really high rate of fire, Storm can like shred enemies. Even at the lower rarities, like where the lower percentage of chance, it's still pretty freaking good. So definitely not a bad blessing, but it depends on what you're rocking. Like for me personally, I like to rock, crossbows and things that shoot one bullet at a time. Like I like to rock those kinds of weapons or melees. So Storm is not something that I often pick up, but it is a pretty good blessing in general. In general, pretty freaking good. So next we have the Hunt. The Hunt is one of like probably my second favorite blessing behind like jumps, because obviously like mobility, like I said, it's a really big deal. And with Hunt, it's scaling speed. So the better a game you're having, the more fast you're gonna go, and it's just gonna be a great freaking time. Pretty self-explanatory as to why that's pretty freaking good. And yeah, it's one of those blessings where, like I said, the only drawback to a blessing like this is like just it taking up a blessing slot. But otherwise, like it's good. It's good. So vampire, yeah, it's one of those blessings that it's good. I'm trying to think of drawbacks to it right now. I mean, I guess as far as healing blessings go, like a main drawback would be the fact that you need to hit something to heal, like a player or something, right? You can't just passively heal without like hitting something, so that's kind of the main drawback. However, with vampire, you actually can punch most trees. In the case of the desert area, there are some cactuses you can hit. But yeah, you can actually punch trees and cactuses, and I think vehicles as well. And you can punch them or hit them with melees and get vampire to lifesteal off of those things. So like for instance, if your final zone is somewhere heavily wooded, however, not all trees you can actually lifesteal off of. Only like I think there's a lot of trees in Finland that you actually cannot, but in general, if you're just somewhere where there's a lot of trees, like in the snowy area, there's a lot of trees you can lifesteal off of. But in general, so if you're in a place where the final zone is where there's a lot of trees and you have vampire and a melee, you can really take advantage of the terrain and heal off of that, and it's really good for that. So, it's not necessarily the case that you have to heal off of a player. You can heal off of the terrain and I think vehicles as well. So, vampire just it's pretty good, but yeah, you kind of needed something to trigger the healing off of, which is kind of like, I guess, the main drawback. Okay, next we have weapon mastery. So weapon mastery in general, yeah, it's one of those things where it's good. There's no real drawbacks to it, I guess, from just taking up a slot. But yeah, reducing your recall and increasing your accuracy, yeah, there's no real drawbacks to that. It's just good in general. However, I would definitely take like a mobility blessing over a mastery. Like, but if I have nothing else, I would obviously take the mastery because it's good. But if I have options, I would definitely consider my options. So next is words of justice. Yeah, this one. See, this one's really interesting because it is an active, you do have to trigger it with your catchphrase. So it's, but it does have a low cooldown. So if you're, rocking some, it doesn't even matter actually the kind of weapon you're rocking. You could be using literally anything to take advantage of words of justice and make it work well in your favor, except melees. I don't think you can really trigger words of justice with melees. So, but yeah, anything else you can easily trigger it, and it's good, but it's like to really like make the best use of it. This is gonna sound like obvious, but like just because it's this game, and like for people who play this game, they're gonna know what I mean when I say this. Like you have to like really be able to land your shots to make a use of words justice, because not only do you have to like land the shot, but because Words of Justice has that like 1 second delay where the animation of the sword spawns in and then hits the target where you shot, like the target has like ample time to move out of that location. So you either need to like predict, like do predictive aiming and shoot where they're gonna be so that the sword can land on them, or just be super accurate on a static target. You know what I mean? So like it sounds simple in principle, like, oh, just land your shots, right? But in this game, because of how like crazy this game is, it's kind of easier said than done. But definitely an interesting blessing, and I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, if you have options, definitely consider your options, but it's definitely not a bad blessing. Definitely not a bad blessing. And so rare insight. So yeah, this one is one of those like blessings where it's like the only downside is the fact that it takes up a slot, but besides that, it's a pretty freaking great blessing overall. Pretty freaking great. Like, it not only can you like see players from like basically anywhere on the map with that little like red like outline and whatnot, but you can also kind of see them through walls when they're up close. So that's also pretty freaking great. Also, it tells you their HP. It's great. It's a banging freaking blessing. No real downsides to that. And then we have the assassin. So obvious downsides are you only have one bullet in your gun, and that bullet deals 1 damage. However, it does the poison damage. So uh, this is definitely one of those blessings where I think if you are gonna make use of it, it's really good to make use of with shotguns, because shotguns have that wide spread, so you don't need to be super accurate. So if, for instance, you have like two of the sawed offs, or the two of the Arnolds, have them akimbo, that's really great for the assassin because they reload relatively quickly, and having akimbo shotguns, you have a lot of spread with each shot, so you can like relatively easily hit those targets, and you're doing like, in terms of poison damage, a lot of damage if you hit that shot. So it's like easy to hit them with it, and they're gonna be hurting hard over the like anytime someone gets hit with the assassin, like they'll start taking poison damage, and they'll be like, oh, this is kind of doing a lot, and then like 2 seconds, 3 seconds in, they'll realize what they're in for, and then they're gonna be scramming. So like the moment you hit someone with the assassin with like a shotgun blast, or with anything really, like they immediately start running around and scrambling. But yeah, because like this does a lot of damage. It's a really good blessing. But yeah, to make use of it, you either have to be really really accurate, or rock like like I said, like akimbo shotguns, like that's like the best build I think ideally to pull off the assassin. But yeah, it can do a lot of work if you use it correctly. Definitely a very interesting blessing. One that you have to like focus to build around, but definitely very interesting. It can be very good. And then lastly we have Mad Mechanic. So Mad Mechanic is, I mean, it's got the obvious drawback of, losing 20% of your HP, but I think its positives outweigh the negatives here. So, like, throwing 3 grenades instead of 1, if you get lucky and find good grenades, that's a big deal. That can sway, like, with throwing 3 instead of 1, with this blessing, you could pull up to a team like 1v4, throw the right kind of a grenade, and just kill them all. You know what I mean? So, this is definitely a big deal blessing. However, yeah, it's one of those blessings where if you don't get lucky with your the grenades that you find, and you don't get the good stuff, then it's gonna be kind of hard to make use of this or get full value. But if you do get lucky with like the types of grenades that you find, then yeah, this can be very, very good. So I guess that's the end of the line there. It covers all the blessings. So yeah, thanks for making it to the end, I guess. And if you have more suggestions as to what other kind of stuff I should cover, let me know in the comments. Okay, peace out, ciao.